G'day everyone and welcome back. We are 4 days out from TSF Team Champs and we're in the final home stretch of interviewing the coaches in the lead up. And I've saved some of the heavy hitters for last. I'm joined by Tyler Seabrook of Apex, podium finisher last year at Team Champs. I'm excited to be chatting to you, Tyler, as we preview this year's competition.
Yeah, brother, super excited for it.
We were chatting a little bit ahead of time and we were talking about just how busy life is at the moment because you're one of the I was going to say many. It's not really many because it is a select field, but one of a few at least that are both preparing for Team Champs, but also preparing to go overseas basically immediately afterwards.
Yeah, it made it slightly more tricky, and we can obviously touch base in one of my first athletes being Tony Reinmuth, who is the athlete competing at Lithuania Worlds. Initially, Team Champs sort of came up and I don't know, I can't remember if he just messaged me randomly or if I was talking to him, but he was just like, I'm in. And then I kind of had to think about it for a second because I was going to reply to him and just be like, it's too close to Worlds in terms of the Team Champs dates, so I thought, I don't think it's a smart idea to do it. But first thing he was just straight away was super excited to do it, and that just shows the kind of event that it is. And I was like, and I kind of thought about it, and I was like, every other sport, they have qualifiers and matches before finals, and I realized that I was like, wait, why is powerlifting so you do a comp and then you can't compete for many, many months after the fact? And so I kind of did the numbers and I realized that Team Champs is exactly 2 weeks out from his competition at Worlds. And I was like, well, that kind of lines up with his last heavy lifts. We generally do his last heavy squat and deadlift around 2 weeks out before he competes because he needs a pretty substantial amount of time to recover from those big lifts. And so here we are with Tony Reinmuth locked in, and definitely probably kept some other teams on their toes with thinking maybe it was a bluff. But no, he was super excited to do it, and he was the one who came to me, offering that he wants to do it again.
It's actually such a big compliment. I will take that as such because the fact that Tony wants to do it, because he did our comp last year, it was the first time that he's lifted in our walls, and he was one of the stars of the show. Squatted 405 kilos. Everybody loved it. I distinctly remember I had this conversation a couple of poddies ago with it might have been Daniel Featherston, and we're talking about iconic moments and memories from previous comps and like what we're looking forward to. And I have this like iconic line of when the bar was called loaded for Tony, and it's actually not from the live event, it's from the live stream, like when I watched the live stream back later, and Alex Hayes goes, "This place is absolutely rocking," and like just that line just has like sat with me since then, because he milked it up, loved it, and it was really good to have him there. So we are looking forward to having him. And as you mentioned, he's doing Worlds in 2 weeks. And so the World starts a week after Team Champs, but it goes for a week itself. And he's on the last day because he's a big boy. And so, yeah, interesting kind of strategy to do. Like basically what I imagine will just be his heavies, like on the platform, very, very specific peaking strategy.
Yeah, it's a good point I did want to touch on. So this week is actually a very normal week for him in terms of volume. So, and also, I guess, exercise selection. So unlike the other 3 athletes who are tapering for the event, he's not tapering for this event. He's doing a normal amount of volume earlier this week. He's actually doing squats and deads today, doing some this week's volume. And then he's got normal upper body accessories and whatnot throughout the week. So he's going into this comp like as if it's a totally normal week, outside of the fact that we had to change up one of the sessions, which coincidentally, the way we've been training is doing one of these days as an SBD day. So he was doing heavy squats and deads, and I was undulating them before the peak just to help manage his fatigue on a week-to-week basis. But then in the peak, we've been doing some singles and doubles leading into this competition. And so what he's basically going to do is do his last heavy lifts on his squats and deads. He's just doing a heavyish bench. He's still going to do some more bench after this meet. And then his volume, we're just pushing back a few days. So he's still going to come in, Tuesday next week and do all the volume that he would have normally done on the Saturday or Sunday, that obviously we're not going to do at the competition itself. I thought about being cruel and giving him his volume in his warm-ups before he goes out and does his heavy singles. And I was like, you know what, you probably, one, I don't want him to miss a single, but two, I don't want to take up the rack for more than what we have to. Because obviously we've got to share the rack with other teams. So I was like, all right, we'll just push the volume back a little bit.
Yeah, I've seen instances of people doing meets where they'll like this, where they're just doing a run through meet and they'll do their top singles on the platform and then come out to the warm up room and just do all their volume in the warm up room. They'll do like their opener, they'll do like their squat opener, and then just pass the next two, and then spend the next 20 minutes just doing 3 sets of 5 at the back, and then do bench press around. I think the other thing that makes it feasible to do the whole 2 comps in 2 weeks thing is there's no weight cut. I think if you're trying to cut weight, the toll that just takes on your body, as well as the lifting, is just so high. Like the thought, like if I try to think about trying to make weight twice in 2 weeks, it's just like, I just couldn't even think of the idea. Whereas obviously for Tony, that's not a relevant point. What is relevant though, is it has to fly to Lithuania. And so we were saying beforehand that I'm feeling sorry for anybody that gets stuck sitting on the plane next to him, because he's 160 kilos of pure muscle and strength and powerlifting goodness.
Yeah, he did mention that he was a little worried about the flight. He hasn't flown at this body weight before as well. He's trying to push his body weight heavier than ever going into this meet. Strategically, obviously picked an aisle seat, as I mentioned to you before, but there's nothing's going to make it easy. And it's also, it's not even like the toll of the competition. It's also like the toll on your psychology. So it's like, for me, it would be tough to compete and then 2 weeks later try to come to that event with the same sort of intensity and mentality. Like it would be, like after you compete, usually you're pretty rattled. I don't want to even look at a barbell usually for like at least a week after I compete. And then, but the fact that he can do it, and I know he can, he's just one of those guys who can handle, he could compete and then he could do heavy squats deads next week and it just wouldn't bother him. So he's definitely a unique person, unique human that can handle not only the physical aspects, helps not obviously doing the weight cut as you mentioned, but also the psychology of it, being able to, manage, just even hype, right? Like trying not to hype too much, and you got to be careful of your stress hormones as well. So yeah, we are going in with a strategy to sort of, not hype up too much and, not try to take it too seriously as well. I think have fun with it is an important aspect of this competition. And as I said, like the week is normal. So I didn't want to change the week just because Team Champs is on for him, because our priority is performing at Worlds. So.
Absolutely. This reminds me, I'm going to put my meet director hat on right now and just admit a fault. I haven't organized scales for Tony, because you mentioned he's pushing up the heaviest weight he has. Do you have scales that go up to enough for Tony? Or, okay, I'm going to have to organize that. I've written that down now. What kind of body weight is he looking to hit at this? Because he's usually around 150, 160 mark, right?
Worlds, Nationals, he was actually 180. So he's pushed up. Yeah. So over the years, back like maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, he was 160s, 170, but now he's pushing in the 180s. So he's trying to really, really push the envelope in body weight. And yeah, I do expect him. Obviously, there is the travel aspect, but if he manage that well, he should still be able to weigh in over 180 if he manages his nutrition and whatnot for the flights. Yeah, just trying to keep his weight up is going to be, and there'll be a full, obviously, plan for that and how to manage it and everything as well. So, but no, super excited for it. Scale wise, that happened last year as well. You end up having to, I think you sent him down to ESS, I believe. Yep. Mine only go to 150 as well as yours. So correct. It's a good little reminder for us.
Yeah, easy thing for me to forget. I've got a lot going on. All right, well, that's a great way to preview. Obviously, talking a little bit about Tony. He's like I said, one of the fan favorites. He's going to score you guys 6 points. You want to know, while we're at it, just introduce your other 3 lifters?
Yeah. So we've got Trina, Trina and Woody and Daichi. So they're the 3 other lifters. Trina is our only female athlete. She's going to be in the 63 class. This is her first competition at this weight. Which I'm, super excited for, because she actually had to do a strategic cut. And I would say this is like the first competitive competition she's going to be doing. She has done nationals before, but she wasn't in the mix to sort of podium at that nationals, where this is probably the first competition that's sort of competitive and she's in the mix to be at a podium. So very excited for her in the 63s. And she recently had a very good competition. I think it was only 5 weeks ago, where she did a PB total, did a 9 for 9 comp, had a really good day, and she was only 66 kilos. And I coincidentally had to replace one of my athletes in Gabrielle, and she was basically the perfect person for it. 63 class, I thought she could do some damage in it. So Trina was injected in and Gabrielle was pulled out. And he'll be helping me handle my athletes over the course of the 2 sessions on Sunday.
Yeah, I was about to mention the fact that Trina was a late submission. Like she only came in 2 weeks ago at the last round of changes. And you mentioned that she'll be fighting for a podium spot. I think every lifter in the 63 kilo is actually lifting on day 1. She's the only one lifting on day 2. So it's going to be a bit of a nervous watch on day 1, watching what totals get put up, what's the target going to be, and if she's going to be in the mix to land on that podium. And one thing that kind of worked out really well in your favor is that Shaza Rue pulled out of the 63s down to 57s. And so it's kind of a hard one because you don't know those things until you kind of all have to show your cards at the same time. And so you've made the call, all right, we know that Shay's in this class, we know that Constance is in this class, but we'll try to shoot for the podium. And it's kind of a nice little lucky surprise that the 63s actually got vacated, because I think a lot of people were also fearing that Abby Drummond was going to drop down to 63. That was also a thing on a lot of people's minds, but that didn't end up happening. So kind of worked out in your favor, I would say.
Definitely. When I seen that come through, I was like, no way. And no one could have even predicted that, because unless they knew Shay and what she was doing, because Shay's history, she's basically never really competed at 57. She's always been in the 63s. So I was like, why is she doing that kind of thing? And I figured maybe she was trying to qualify for that weight class for the next nationals or something. Or she just wanted to take points from people in the 57s. I believe she generally walks around a little bit lighter. She's 63s, she has to eat up into the 63s. But that obviously surprised me, but it was a nice little surprise and definitely put Trina in a better position to be able to just podium higher than what she could have before, with Shay being the outright favourite in the 63s initially.
Yeah, and so it's worthwhile just for the listeners at home running through the nominations. Well, at least what I've got here is Constance's top nomination at 63 kilo, Constance Pandusis from Groove, 412.5. And then below that goes Trina at 380, and then 377.5, 373, 372.5. So we've basically got 4 girls there, all between 372.5 and 380, at least on my sheet here, all within 7.5 kilos. So it's going to be a really tight battle between them. But Trina has that advantage lifting the next day.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage, and something I love about this event is having that position. I feel like it's great for the coaches and the teams, not so great for the athletes. I think athletes generally like to have that battle in the moment. I know that like my other athlete Woody is looking forward to that in the 93 class. But yeah, super excited for Trina to be able to just pick off the totals on day 2. And, hopefully we can pull off a 9 for 9 day and secure a podium would be an awesome result.
Yeah, of course. It's always, even as a meet director, even as coaches and athletes, it's better when you're all fighting in the same group in session. And there was a bit of a criticism early on when we launched the system about, isn't it better if they all lift together and stuff? But it's kind of the point of the system, right? Is that you qualify into the better day, and then you get the better chances, and you've got better chances of winning money, and you've got better chances of scoring well, and all these types of benefits. And it's interesting because on the women's side, there are a number of classes that are like this, where there's only one on day 2. So 63s, 4 lifters on day 1, and 1 lifter on day 2. 69s, 6 lifters on challengers bracket, 1 lifter on premier bracket. Same in the 84 plus kilo category, 6 lifters in challengers, 1 lifter in prem. So it'll be really interesting. But those 3 stories about like just trying to pick off people and seeing where they land.
Yeah, it's unique to this event too. So it's something that's a cool aspect of it, and you got to play the game as it is, right? So
I guess it's not too dissimilar to what happens at like really big meets, like a Worlds, for example. You got B class lifters, A class lifters. It's like if you're in the A group, then you get the advantage of outlifting other lifters in the B group, which oftentimes people say, well, that's not really a big deal because you put in the best lifters later, which makes sense. But I think it makes a big difference actually at a Worlds, where you might have a B group lifter who's a podium chance in a single lift. So there may be like a bench specialist. And so you've got a guy at like say 83 kilos who benches 200, but his total's only 660 or maybe 700 actually might be more realistic. So 200 kilo bench, 700 kilo total, but he lifts in a B group, and then he can't actually fight for a bench medal because now the A class lifters can just pick him off and win the bench medal. So it's not too dissimilar to what happens at Worlds. I know USAPL, when they were out there peak, were doing this kind of thing where they had like big B groups and C groups that lifted earlier in the day. So it's just the way it is, I suppose. But I don't want to sit on that for too long. Sorry. I do want to move forward. Otherwise we'll be chatting for an hour and a half, and we can do that. That's the problem. I'm like, we've got to keep it within time limits. All right. You mentioned Woody as your second lifter. Let's go there. So 93 kilos, Will Woodrow.
Yeah, Will Woodrow. So I've been handling him for the last like 4 or 5 competitions, and he's been training with us, and we do a lot of team training together as well over the last sort of 12 months. And he quickly put his hand up and sort of offered, that he could be part of the team and do some damage part of the team. So I was like, yep, like awesome, let's get you into it. So locked him in right at the start. And yeah, it's 93s, obviously. We didn't know how competitive it was going to be by the final nominations. I think it was only one athlete that left the 93s in Tony Nguyen that was dangerous in that sense. So it's been pretty, other than that, it's stayed the same with, your favorites like your Corey Rose, your Richards, Charles, these guys who are totaling high 600, low 700s. So it's going to be a really good battle, as you alluded to before, with Trina having that advantage on the second day. Woody doesn't have that advantage, and he'll be competing alongside these athletes in the 93s. So super excited to see how that battle sort of falls into place.
Yeah, an interesting comment about the 93 kilo category actually is that there's 10 lifters, and so the 5 on challengers bracket will have a little fight amongst themselves, and all 5 of the premier bracket lifters are currently higher nominated than the challenger. So it's kind of a nice even, like the 5 challenger lifters are the weaker of the 10, and the 5 premier lifters are all the stronger of the 10. So it kind of works out actually the way that if you had to split it, that's the way you would split it. So in some sense, Woody does have the advantage over those challenger bracket lifters, but it's not going to make a difference because you kind of need to finish top 4 to score competitive points. And it's going to be close because, again, just for those listening at home, the top nominations, 737, 727, and then it drops down to 690, 690, 682 and a half, and Will's at that 682 and a half. So within striking distance of getting on a podium, actually.
Yeah, he actually did 705 at Nationals. So
he's actually a little bit higher than I thought as well.
Yeah. So he did 705 at Nationals. His recent comp, which was just to qualify for this year's Nationals, I think he did the 682. He, was obviously just trying to qualify for APL Nationals, so he didn't need to worry about peaking for that either. His focus was Team Champs, where, we're going to try and push into the basically 700 plus, which I think is what we'll need to, especially to podium top 3, with Charles looking like he's having a good prep. Corey he was a junior nationals for APA and he came second, but he PB'd his total again with 737, I believe you said. And then Charles has hit a 700 plus total once before, but all previous to that was all 600. So it's going to be a good battle for that podium, particularly because these boys are going to all be trying to out deadlift each other because they're all deadlifting around a similar amount as well. So it's going to really come down to success in attempt selection.
Going 3 out of 3.
Yeah, because if you overshoot trying to beat somebody, it's like, so attempt selection is going to be really critical. One of the reasons I put faith in Woody to be on the team is he's been very reliable in terms of attempt selection in the past. So if you actually look at the history of his competitions, he usually goes about 8 out of 9 to 9 out of 9 and 9 out of 9 days. So he's very reliable in that sense in terms of like, he really knows what he's capable of. There's no delusion there. He won't like put a number on that he doesn't think he can do. So that's something that's really reliable about Woody. But yeah, like I said, I'm just looking forward to that battle. They're all, lifting around a similar amount, particularly second, third, fourth. I think first place, Corey Rowe is in a really good position, provided he doesn't have any issues going into this competition. But the other 3 boys are going to be, 3 or 4 boys are going to be really close. So really looking forward to that battle.
Yeah, and like I've mentioned a couple of times in previous episodes as well, those battles where if you finish second, third, or fourth, it's oftentimes a 2 or 3 point turnaround, because if you drop 2 points, you're also handing another team another 1 point as well. It's not just you're losing 2 points. It's not like, say, penalty points where you miss weight class, you lose 2 points. You're not just losing 2. You're actually handing points over. And the 3 teams in the ESS Uplift Apex, you're all kind of like mid-tier, upper-tier range in the overall competition. And so if you drop 2 points and you hand 2 points over to ESS, it's like that could be the difference between them finishing third and finishing like ninth. Like it can actually be that violent of whiplash. And so those battles where you've got 2 or 3 lifters, even if they're fighting for third, that's actually very important, or very important placings.
It's so true, and I've noted that, and it's kind of one of those. It's one of the only weight classes where we're versing teams that we will be competitive with in the overalls. So it is an important weight class for our team. So yeah, this battle is going to be critical. It's going to be this second session on day 2 as well. So it's going to be right at the end. It's going to go down to the wire as well. So it could really, you could see some team change positions right at the very end based on how these guys go on the deadlifts.
Look, now's a good time to interrupt you. And before we talk about your fourth lifter, I've got to mention our major sponsor for the event, who is Symmetry Physiotherapy. I've mentioned them in every episode since they came on board. Physiotherapy clinic based in Melbourne. They've got 9 clinics. We work very closely with Megan Keeley from Symmetry Physiotherapy in Ascot Vale. We send basically all of our lifters. They're not too far away from you guys, actually, in Coburg.
Yes.
Great physiotherapist. And the number one thing that we've enjoyed working with them is the communication. As Tyler would know, being a fitness professional, when you send people to a physio or they go to a physio themselves and you don't get any feedback, any reports, any ideas, you have to basically go through the client themselves who's trying to translate, physical talk. Doesn't work. Whereas with the team at Physio, it's just been really, really great open communication lines. And so they've got an offer, 25% off myotherapy, 25% off initial physiotherapy for anybody competing at Team Champs, any TSF members. So send them a message. There's all the infos in the bio, in the description below. So go check out Symmetry.
Awesome.
Our next lifter is Daichi.
Daichi. So this is the dark horse athlete that I've brought in.
So he's lifting at 66 kilos, and this is a tight battle actually, because there's 5 lifters all in the Prem that are going to be very, very competitive.
Yeah, so Daichi is actually one of my newest clients. We've only been training together for maybe 6 months now, maybe a little longer, 6, 7, 8 months. He started progressing really quickly, and we were, sort of contemplating putting him in a novice competition. And then all of a sudden he, added 50, 60, 70 kilos to his total in just one block of training. And I was like, oh, interesting. And then I was like having a look at, and then sort of Team Champs sort of come up and what athletes I was going to pick. And I was like, I had to be a little bit more competitive this Team Champs in regards to weight classes. So I was looking at, because every team most teams in Team Champs has a trump card where it's an athlete that's super high level probably will win, their division, their weight class. For us, obviously that's Tony Reinmuth. For other teams, it's the coach or one of their higher level athletes. And for us, I was looking at sort of playing the game with weight classes, and Daichi was sitting in the 73, 74 kilo mark at the time. And I just was like, hey, would you, be interested in doing this event that we do every year called Team Champs? And he was kind of curious. And I was like, look, I want you to have more experience though, because he actually had not competed at this point. So I put him into one of our local APA comps 10 weeks ago. And I was very impressed by how composed he was for his first competition. He went 8 for 9. Added another, again, it was 70 kilos to his total. And I was like, all right, I think, we could be competitive, particularly in the 66s. And he competed at 72. So I was like, would you be interested in, one, competing, but also changing weight class? And he was just put his hand up straight away and was super excited for it. So this is definitely, one of those risks that I've taken in the past, if you recall, with Asher, who had never competed before. But this is, again, one of those guys who can handle the pressure. And I'm super excited to see how he goes come 1 week's time.
Yeah, he's like you mentioned, a bit of a dark horse because only hasn't got much comp experience. He's got that one that was basically a trial comp. It sounds like a couple of months ago. It's a deep field. There's 580 kilo total. Gary Chung is a favorite. Then Aiden at 570. Daichi's in at 522 and a half. Taito in 465. Then 412 and a half. So all five of the 66s. Actually, there's a sixth 66 who recently got put in just literally yesterday, who will be lifting on in the challengers bracket. But all five of those competitive guys at least will be in the premier bracket, and so it's going to be a good battle. And again, like I mentioned before, one or two placings up or down can really make a big difference in the overall standings. So looking forward to seeing how Daichi fares.
Yeah, and he's got to obviously battle with those top rated guys on the Sunday as well. So there's no advantage for him to pick off totals. But we're definitely, going to sort of watch what they do, and it'll come down to mistakes. If any mistakes are made, then he'll be hunting them down. So obviously he's not the favourite in that class, but he definitely could podium in the 66ers though, particularly with the way that he's progressing, and also just the way that he can really handle the pressure in the moment. He's very, very composed for someone who hasn't competed much. I was actually, I wouldn't say complaining, but I pointed out to him that there is a chance that he outdots me, does more dots than me in his second competition.
Hell yeah.
And I was like, you know how ridiculous that is? Like, I've been competing for nearly 10 years now to work towards a mid 400s dots. And then this guy comes in second competition and can actually push that.
Can lift. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So it just goes to show the kind of unique potential that Daichi has. And, something that's really impressed me with Daichi and Trina is that they've both had to cut weight for this event, and a substantial amount of weight as well. And their ability to be so disciplined and be so on point, and now they're both looking like making weight, but also both looking quite strong as well. So I'm very impressed and proud of these guys for the work that they've put in.
Awesome, man. Now I know in the last few days, or maybe the last 24 hours, 48 hours, you put up a little question box, and you've got a few questions both for me, but for us, I suppose. Do you want to rattle off some of the questions that maybe some of the fans, if we've got do we have fans? Is it big enough to say we've got fans, or friends and family, should we say?
Yeah. I mean, I like the idea of that this event does have fans. I mean, I like the way that people hype about this event, leading into it. How many events can you say that happens with, right? So, it's something that I look forward to every year as team champs. So, it's become such a cool event that we get to do together, and it brings the community together. One of the questions here was if Apex wins, JP's got to go to Revs.
Sign me up to that, honestly. No offense, but I don't see very good odds on that. So I'll take the bet, honestly.
I was going to say you'd happily take that bet.
Pretty safe.
And the other one would be, what would it take for you to compete at Team Champs?
For myself?
Yeah.
Is it me?
Yes.
Oh, that's a good question. Hey, I've done one. I did the first one.
Correct.
Like the first proper one. What would it take for me? It would, and it's hard because I think one of the things that, I guess like the perspective that we try to have at TSF is that it's one for our members. It's like, this is your chance to represent us. And like, if we put me and Josh in, we would win like most years, or we would be top three. If Josh and I lifted, we'd be top three every year. But kind of where's the fun in that? It's like, we want our members participating and feeling like they've earned the way to represent the club. And we've been in the Challengers the last 2 years, and that sucks, and we really want to get in the Prem. But I don't want to say never say never, because hopefully Team Champs is alive and well in 10 and 20 years, and maybe at some point along the way, there's an opportunity, someone pulls out at the last minute. Maybe that's what it takes. Someone pulls out the last minute, like literally 2 days out, and nobody's willing to put their hand up. Fine, I'll pull my freaking soft suit out of the drawer. But it's not something that I would pick out ahead of time, because we try to reserve those 4 places for members. And I know a lot of other teams put in some of their coaches and stuff, and like that's fine too. Like there's no shade on that. But it's just not the way that we want to do things at TSF. We want to give our members the opportunity, so to speak, to lift at a competition where there's pressure, stakes. They feel that pride representing the club and stuff. So it would take a bit of a disaster. I think like maybe the only way is 2 days out, someone gets injured, and nobody else wants to do it. And the only person crazy enough, I think there are very few people crazy enough to do that, and I'm probably one of them.
Yeah, I actually had a good conversation with Josh about this, and I come to that realization that I was like, hey, you guys could like definitely do very well if yourself and Josh were doing it. Obviously, there's adversities in place as well for you. One, running this meet and the pressure and stress leading into to organising everything and then doing it would obviously be a lot for you outside of just wanting to do it. So there's also the pressure on you, and as well as Josh being obviously the coach for your team as well, right? So it would be less than ideal for you boys. Maybe it would take for someone else to run the event, and then that way it frees you up a little bit as well. So, but I think a lot of teams recognize that, and it's very admirable as well that you boys, give you, I guess, your members the opportunity rather than just always you guys doing it every year.
Yeah, exactly the case. Like I said, Josh and I actually did the first one, and so that was a good experience. It was a lot smaller back then. It was very little prize money. It wasn't nowhere near the professional level that it is now. So that was a good experience, but yeah, not again. I think what I've said is that the only time I'll compete, I'm never going to compete at my gym, but the only time I will is when I do my 50th. If I do my 50th meet, like I think I'm on 34 or 35. Maybe I'll do my 50th at the gym and make that a big celebration, like the same way that, footballers, when they play their 300th game and they get a big celebration, maybe I'll do something like that.
That's a cool idea. Yeah. Goddamn, 50 comps, man. That would be,
that's still like 7 years away. That's ages away.
That's a feat and a half though. As you know, a lot of people come in and out of this sport. So to do 50 competitions would be, a big, rare, achievement, I would say.
Oh, yeah. I think Liz Craven's on 50 plus, like 3 lifts. So
she's already there.
Takes a special mental case to do 50 comps. All right, Tyler, what else have we got? Have we got any other big questions?
My question for you was related to this anyway, in terms of who do you actually think is going to win the challenge bracket?
Oh, really good question. And that was probably the next segue for us anyway, was our predictions. I feel like the challenges bracket is going to be more exciting than the premier bracket, which I hate to say, but the challenges, it's going to be more exciting in the sense of it's going to be way closer, like so hard to predict. I feel like the premier bracket or the overall competition, I think it's like Stronghold's the favorite, Compound's the favorite, Process the favorite. So basically a three horse race. Those three are fighting amongst themselves unless something diabolical happens. And then everyone else, there's a bit of a gap. Whereas I feel like in the challengers bracket, the top 5 or 6 could finish in any order. Like it really feels like pretty open. So I've got my eyes on Groove and TSS, like the Strength Syndicate. I think those are hard teams to beat, with good lifters in both teams. Obviously TSS has Shay, and then Will in the 120s is also going to score full points on day one. And then Haynes Crosley, who I coach, is a freaking beast of a lifter and should be on the podium. And so I see them doing really well. Groove again, Dean Antoniadis at 74 kilo category. Brachelle, Constance, Beck. Alex Delaportis refers to them as the retirement village, but it's more of the experienced, like the experienced team. They're not actually that old. They're not retirement age. They have one M1 lifter. It's more just they're all super experienced. So Groove and TSS, I think, are the ones to beat, but then it could, like any of the Defy, even TSF and Adaptive, could be in the mix on that podium and getting themselves promoted. I think that's the main goal for a lot of those teams, getting that top 4. You get in that top 4 and you're through to the Prem the next year. So yeah, I'm super pumped for the Challengers bracket actually.
Yeah, and something I love about the event is that it's always someone new and different winning the Challengers event, because obviously once you win that, you go to the Premier. So, I feel like it's going to be like a different team every year. So it's, and as you mentioned, it's more competitive than even I realised, because I haven't actually got to look at the Challengers bracket as much as the Premier bracket that I've been obviously focusing on. So that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because I feel like you've got so much knowledge around all the teams and all their capabilities because you've interviewed them all. So yeah, it's good insight, and I'm looking forward to that because I also get to commentate with Alex for session 3, day 1. So I'll be commentating the finish to that Challengers bracket.
Oh, that'll be awesome. It'd be good to have 2 good commentators in for that last finish because, like you said, that's when the scoreboard's going to be jumping around, and that's when teams are going to be jostling, trying to get their way into that top 4. So yeah, it's gonna be a really good session to be commentating. Have two good commentators on there who know lifting and who know the teams and know the stakes, I suppose. I think that's a good segue into yourself, mate. Who do you see yourself in the Prem at least? What's the whole competition going to look like and shape like?
I think initial nominations, I thought Compound kind of had it in the bag.
Yeah.
With very impressive athletes across the board. I think they have four or four female athletes. If you correct me if I'm
I think
wrong.
all four. I think all four are women now. Yeah, who
All
are
four
the
women,
girls.
and I think they were basically like first in all of them except maybe one second. And I was like, I don't think any other team is going to get even 3 firsts, let alone 2 firsts. So I was like, yep, Compound. But then nomination changes definitely spiced things up with ESS taking out 2 of their best athletes, and it directly benefited Stronghold. And so all of a sudden, Stronghold was technically the favorite if in terms of like open powerlifting favorite, with multiple firsts that were going to be seconds. So if they play their cards right, they could actually win this event, which is really, really cool. Compound is still obviously a high chance, first or I still think Compound first or second. Stronghold has the chance to be first or second as well. And then after that, I'm thinking Process, Apex would be, I'll put Apex as third just to spice things up a little bit.
So you do see Apex doing pretty well. I mean, interestingly, according to my spreadsheets, like Apex are a little bit beyond the top, but I don't think I don't think I appreciated Will Woodrow's improvement and Daichi's. So potentially they finish a little bit higher than what I predicted.
Yeah, that's for us. It comes down to obviously execution, and then also if any mistakes are made in the weight classes that our athletes are in, would be the difference in us podium or not. But that's it's a cool position to be in because we're still in a chance. It's not like we're out of a chance of a podium. So, and it would be the 3rd time in a row that we would podium if we managed to pull it off. So that would be a feat in itself. And that's why I'm super excited to see how this plays out, because it's like there's a lot of teams that could podium or at least come 3rd, especially, whether, as we've alluded to, you got the Uplift or Victor's team. Apex is also Melbourne University is kind of a bit of a dark horse, so they could pull it off as well. So there's probably like from 3rd to 7th or 8th, there's all of those teams have a chance to podium if things fall into, place for their athletes in their weight divisions.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like just going through my my predictions here, the teams that I've got in, which I will keep to myself for now, that are in 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. So these 4 teams from 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th have, according to my predictions, are all in the same score. They've all got the same score. So that just goes to show that, like we said before, about 1 point difference up or down can catapult you from podium to 7th or 8th. It can be the difference. It can almost be the difference. Like 1 or 2 points can almost be the difference between like not making the premier bracket the next year or being on the podium. And that 1 or 2 point difference could be one lift. Like it's literally one deadlift from one lifter, and they just don't have enough chalk on their hands, and then they drop a deadlift, and all of a sudden you could have won prize money, but instead you're in the challengers bracket. Like it's almost insane that it can have such chaotic results. But I mean, I think that's why we love it, because you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and I can give perfect examples of this, right? So this is our 3rd team champs in a row. In the first team champs, we were fighting for 2nd place, and we had the exact same placings as ESS, first, second. And their athlete in Hung dotsed so well that they out-dotsed us just by a small margin to then get 2nd, and we got 3rd. In the last team champs, we could have got 1st, and it come down to one deadlift being in the 84 class, missing a 3rd deadlift, and in the other 69 class, which was Lotta, she got out deadlifted in the final deadlift. So that was the difference in 1st and 3rd. So it's come down to the wire in terms of like placings, whether it's on dots in that first meet that we put a team in, or that second one where it was just come down to literally 2 deadlifts was the difference between 1st and 3rd.
We love to see it. That's kind of why we love it. Before I let you go, Tyler, I've got one last question for you. What are you looking forward to most? What's the thing that you're like, I cannot wait for that to happen. I cannot wait to see that person. I can't wait for this person to get on the platform, for just that feeling, a smell, a vibe, something nostalgic? What are you looking forward to most in this weekend? Particular lifter, perhaps, a team, someone to catch up with you haven't seen in a long time?
I'm super excited for the 57 female class. That's super spicy. There is like four high level athletes. When Shay went down to the 57s, I was just like, damn, what is that? Sophie, Jessica, Claudia, Shay, like, all of a sudden you got four like national level athletes all versing each other. And I'm not sure more about fifth and sixth, but they'll probably be on their toes if any of them miss as well. So the 57 class, which I think is a very unusual class to be like one of the most competitive. Usually it would be a little bit heavier women in like 69 class, for example, like it was last year. I think 69 was the kind of class to watch, where this year I think it's actually the 57s, which is very particular, or very peculiar, I should say. The 93 boys as well, that's going to really be an exciting watch. And obviously we'll be there in the moment with Will having to perform in the 93s, especially with the teams that we're up against. So that's really going to dictate, as you alluded to, where these teams place and how close they're going to be basically on the same points in that moment. And it'll come down to just that final deadlift, which is what we want as well. We want the event to come down to that final deadlift, like it was last year, where it came down to the final deadlift from that first to third position, which is always like more exciting. It's never like as fun if someone's just won from their opener deadlift and no one's going to touch them. So that would be the two things I'm most excited about. Other than the fact that I just know this is going to be a fun event. I love getting together with all these different teams. We always have a good laugh and, have a good time. Even just the after party is going to be a really fun event, I think, as well. I like that you guys have added that to this as well, having like a formal event to go to afterwards. That's a really, really cool addition of Team Champs.
Yeah, big shout out to Alex De La Portis for that one. You mentioned the 93 kilo category. I think the 93 kilo category, I think the Corey Rowe from Stronghold, Richard Chalik from Process, I think that 1v1 is literally going to be the what do you call it in a like an MMA night, like the main event. That's going to be like the main one-on-one 1v1. That's going to determine the result, because if Richard Chalik manages to beat Corey Rowe, then Process could end up winning. If it's the other way around, then I think it's going to be Stronghold that ends up winning. I feel like they are literally going to be in the octagon and they're going to be facing off each other, twisting, turning, and whoever can lay that last blow could potentially win $3,000. So it's going to be a great event.
Yeah, and that I feel like that only benefits Woody as well, because it's going to encourage people to maybe take an attempt they don't want to, and there's going to be some of those boys who are going to miss attempts because they're going to try overshoot because they need to. They're going to take risks, and that's where we could really position ourselves well based on the risks taken from other teams. So it's the same thing with Daichi's class as well. The two top boys, first and second, which is MU and SR Collective, they're gonna be battling at the same time as well. So it definitely makes things interesting for the athletes who are just under those guys, on their toes, on their heels a little bit. Super excited for those battles.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining me today, previewing Team Champs 2026. It's always a pleasure to chat to you. You're a very switched on coach, obviously somebody who pays attention, who appreciates the intricacies of the meet. You understand it very well. And we're wishing you the best of luck in the last couple of days of the preparation for your team. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Saturday and Sunday.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all the kind words, brother.
Cool. Take care, mate.
All right.